Welcome to The Ripple, where extraordinary women executives get real about their career journeys. This season, thanks to our partnership with GNW Consulting, you'll hear even more stories from women leaders about how they're building visibility for themselves, their careers, and their companies. I'm your host, Ashley Laabs, and today we're joined by the fierce Kay Royal, Global Chief Privacy Officer and Deputy General Counsel at Crawford and Company. She is the host of the Serious Privacy podcast as well, and she's here to talk about some of her crowning achievements and how they helped her stay committed to building a career based on alignment. Kay, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to chat with you.
Thank you for having me.
Something that I think is really interesting about you is that, well, aside from the fact that our listeners don't know this if they're hearing the audio podcast, but aside from the very interesting fact that you're wearing a crown and a sash.
I just won this like a week or so ago. So even with the broken back and on a walker, I won a pageant. So I am the classic universe woman, and it may be the last pageant I ever do. I may have it out of my system now.
Were you a pageant girl?
No. I started doing pageants right before I was 50, right before COVID shut everything down. And I figured I'll do it 3 years, have fun, and COVID shut everything down. And so I didn't really get to do as much as I wanted. And so I did this one 2 years ago. And then when I moved, took, a couple of years off and went back and said, you know what the heck? I've paid for it. The hotel's paid for. The flights are paid for. The pageant's paid for. Doesn't matter. I'm on a walker. I might as well show up and have fun. So I showed up and had fun, and I won.
That's fantastic. What was it that made you decide you wanted to do this?
It comes from a nightmare that I had from a teen. So I did do, I guess, what would be considered a pageant back when I was a senior in high school. And I'm poor and didn't do anything. All the girls were supposed to wear white, and my gown was rose red. And I forgot my words on stage for speaking. And so where other people have this nightmare, they wake up through their lives walking naked through a crowd or something, my nightmare was being on this stage, just struck dumb. And so it was agony, nightmares of this. So that's what drove me to public speaking. But my daughter started competing in pageants in college. And I'm like, you know what? Why not? Maybe this will help me banish a nightmare. And it did. And not only that, it really helped me with other things because I went through a lot of abuse and everything from family and all growing up. And I never developed a sense of self. This has helped me develop a sense of self. I'm being judged on everything you can possibly be judged on. My intelligence, my community service, the way I look, the way I walk, the way I dress. So being judged as a woman from head to toe, inside to out, is apparently what I needed to develop a strong sense of self-worth.
So did you feel like in the process of doing these pageants as an adult that your sense of self was more resilient so you could come back and do this? Okay.
Yes.
That's so fascinating to me.
I had a professor when I was doing my PhD that said there is no way that a person can have low self-esteem and low self-confidence. I'm like, yeah, they can. I have every confidence in my intelligence and how I could do things and my work product. I have zero self-esteem for me as a person. Of course, that was before I started doing pageants. So I'd say, yeah, it's definitely helped. And I've had fun along the way. I get pretty honking big freaking crown like this, too.
Honestly, you do. And first of all, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love that that's not like hiding in a corner somewhere. I love that it's just out loud and proud.
When I first started doing it, I would go to professional conferences, the IAPP, Association of Corporate Counsel, things like that. I didn't carry the crown. It's a lot to carry a crown. But I would carry my sash with me, and I would take pictures, and I would do it like if I went into a speaking session, I would take pictures with the sash, and then I'd take it off and, do my speaking session. And so many people, privacy professionals, attorneys, all the vendors, they're like, oh, no, you need to wear the sash. This is cool. We have a queen in our midst. We have a pageant girl here. I did consulting, and I went to a vendor in Utah, their big pageant state, and the security guy took me around to all of their places to take pictures in my sash because he didn't have a daughter. And he wanted to be part of the pageant world. So he was helping me take pageant. Everybody has been so accepting of it. It has totally blown my mind how accepting people are of it.
Well, this leads me to the other interesting thing about you that I want to talk about, which I think is being a woman in the privacy space. I'm really interested in what it has meant for you to become a thought leader in this space. It's sort of an ironic thing, the idea of privacy and the idea of being a thought leader. Like, these things don't necessarily go together for this industry, especially for a woman. What has it been like for you to show up?
It's really interesting because the privacy field is starting to become more lawyer dominated. The more laws that are passed, the more that employers want their privacy people to have a law degree. And the law is male dominated. And so it's interesting to be a woman in this area because my first privacy role was in healthcare. That was all well and fine. There's women all over the place, as records managers and HIPAA officers and things. But then I moved to Silicon Valley for a global tech company. Now, it was still medical related. It was Invisalign, so Align Technology. And that's when I first started feeling you're a woman, not only in privacy, in global privacy, but also in technology. And that's where a lot of the friction comes. And I also specialized a lot in startup companies. So that really freewheeling, we're out here, we could do everything and take chances kind of attitude, right? That doesn't go well with how do you manage personal data. And it was interesting because I quite often was the only woman in the room. I would go to conferences and literally be the only woman at the conference. And I remember one of them in Arizona where I was up on stage and I'm like, now looking around this room, y'all might have noticed there's a little something different about me than there is about the rest of y'all. And they all started laughing. I said, I'm wearing red. And of course, that's not what came to their mind, but it is important to have women in these roles. So for the same reasons that companies need to have women on their board of directors, you need to have women in these leadership roles because we approach problems, we approach solutions, we approach team management, crisis management, all at a vastly different perspective than men do. Now, that's not across the board. There are some women who do it more like men do and vice versa, some men who do it like women do. But it definitely makes you feel the difference in how you approach it. The problem is a lot of the men that are either my counterparts or the other side, I wouldn't say they're detractors, but let's call it that. They don't understand the value of having a woman's perspective. They literally only look at what are your qualifications and what do you bring to the table. And I bring the qualifications to the table, so that part doesn't dent me at all. But the part of not understanding problem solving and crisis management and team building was something that I have struggled against men for quite some time. And again, there are men out there who do it wonderfully, but there's a lot of men out there that don't. And trying to get that part across, that it's not just about your technical competence skills, it's about your soft skills as well. No, that doesn't usually compute well.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that's really interesting to me talking to so many women in your position where they're the only woman in the room and maybe even in a very large room is that building their professional brand in public outside of the company has helped them gain influence inside of the companies that they work at or with. Was that the case for you too?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I started building my brand quite a ways back, but there was actually a guy that gave me the brand part, or recognized, I guess, confirmed the brand part. So a long time ago, I had come up with the Heart of Privacy, and back when people did blogs and stuff. And so I did blogs under Heart of Privacy. I actually had the managing partner of a major law firm recognize me in Washington, D.C. in an elevator. He's like, oh my God, you're the Heart of Privacy. You have a name. I don't know what your real name is, but you're the Heart of Privacy. And that right there was the peak moment when you're like, you know what? I'm on the right track.
I love that. And what a great thing to be remembered for, too. I think that's a lovely tagline. It makes you think of, bringing the humanity into a very techie issue like privacy.
Yeah. very much so. And so many people don't understand privacy, right? I tell people, quit thinking of me as privacy, because for some reason people look at that as a no. You're a compliance, you're a legal function, you're a no function. And I rarely ever tell people no. If I'm going to tell them no, it's going to be hard, dark, black line in asphalt. It's not going to be something you can shift, because our laws are so nebulous on almost every point that depending on what you want to do, I can generally find a way for you to be able to do it. There's a way to wiggle this way and waggle that way and put this statement in and get that signed, and then you can do what you want to do. There's very rarely a circumstance where it would be, no, you cannot do that. And I wouldn't work for a company that would. That if I told them something was illegal or a hard no and they did it anyway, I would not be able to stay with that. And thank God I've never had a company do one. But it's really interesting to see that our field is still such a fast-growing field with so very few defined parameters that it's like working a mystery, right? We're all in there to solve for the solution, and it's fun, and we help each other, and all of it.
Something that's really fascinating and maybe challenging about this that I'm hearing is just that there's enough gray area and there's enough change in privacy and technology that it seems like what it means to be an expert in this is changing all the time, and it sounds like the lines kind of get redrawn. How has it been for you establishing your expertise in this industry when things are shifting so quickly?
I wrote a podcast. It's called Serious Privacy. My co-host, who's in the Netherlands, is a regulator. He was part of the Working Party 29 for you privacy nerds out there. And then he went in-house, and now he's back as a regulator for Jersey, the real Jersey, not the New Jersey. And we have very vastly different personality traits. And now we actually have a third co-host. We just hit 250 episodes. We're consistently considered one of the best in the world, and actually are nominated for a Global Picasso Award, so a privacy security award out of the UK. So it's really cool as a content creator. But I've often said that if you're not active and staying active in the field, if you're not speaking, writing, doing a podcast, researching, being active, if you're the kind of person that's going to be head down, get your work done, you're going to be behind within a month. So this forces me to stay active. Doing the podcast weekly forces me to stay up to date on what's happening in the privacy world, the new stories that come out, the new laws that come out. We've quite often been able to jump on something hot happening right then. It's usually Europe. And they'll pass something, they'll issue a paper, and Paul will read it. Ralph, our other co-host, will read it. They'll have the analysis ready to go. I wake up, jump on the screen, and boom, we're pushing it out within 24 hours of it happening. So it's been really cool to have that. And then also knowing that working for my employer, that they give me the liberty to be able to do this. What I do, of course, reflects on them, but my views are different from them, and my views don't necessarily reflect the views of my employer. You always have to put that caveat out, but they love the fact that I do this. You know, they love the fact that I speak and I'm out there and I do the podcast and all. So it's really good to have employer support for it, because it's not like I'm making money with it, right? So that part makes it as well. I'll tell you, I was interviewing for a job one time with a really, really big tech company. And I tend to ask the question, what does failure look like? Not what does success look like in 30, 60, 90? What does failure look like in 30, 60, 90? And the woman started talking, and she's like, well, anyone who wants to go to conferences, who wants to be active in the field, do speaking, do writing, write articles, be considered. And the more she was talking, she and I just met eyes. She's like, yeah, I think we just talked ourselves out of an interview. I'm like, I think we did. Because I would never be able to take a job that I couldn't participate in those things.
You know that moment when the one person who knows how everything works suddenly doesn't work there anymore? Your go-to person is gone, and no one seems to know how to use one of your critical platforms. It happens. GNW Consulting can step in when your team hits that kind of gap. They keep things running while you figure out the next move, whether that's backfiling, rethinking the stack, or just getting your footing again. They've got the skills, the calm, and the context to make transitions feel a lot less stressful. Plus, they're a big supporter of Wednesday Women and the way we amplify women execs authentically. So check out GNWconsulting.com, to learn how they can support teams during pivotal moments and make life easier for modern marketing orgs.
Yeah, did you ever encounter any friction in a role that you actually did take?
I did, and it was resolved pretty easily. You always have a little bit of tension, right? Because the employer wants to know that you're spending your time dedicated to them and not on other things. And so there's always a little bit of tension regardless. But there was one that I reported to a guy who had no idea what I did, didn't understand what privacy was, no clue whatsoever. He was a litigator. To him, everything turned on an A or an N or a the or where's the comma. And with me, you could replace 3 sentences in a paragraph and it'd still be right. I know how to live with ambiguity. He did not. And so I got a lot of pushback from that. But I will say that I got a lot of pushback for other reasons too. I have disabilities, and so one of my accommodations was I had the right to work from home on Wednesdays with no questions asked. Every month he'd be like, "Why do you have to work from home on Wednesdays again?" I'm like, "Really? You're a smart guy. You can't retain this information month after month?" So there was a lot of pushback. So I will say that when I've gotten pushback, it's been for more than just the privacy. It seems like there's just tension on other levels as well. I've never gotten pushback just on my privacy activities and being active in the field. And that could be because either I'm really good at picking employers or employers are just really that good.
Well, I think that is fortunate. I know there are a lot of women out there who I've talked to who part of their hesitation about building their personal professional brand is that they're worried about what their employer is going to say.
Yeah.
They're worried because in some way they feel like they are owned by that company and that company can dictate how they are using their personal time, even when it's to the advantage of that company, but they feel like if they disagree, that company has say over what they're doing with their personal LinkedIn and what they're doing with their personal podcast or whatever. And, I can imagine a world where they might have a problem with some things if they're, saying bad things about the company or whatever.
Right.
But what's your take on that? What advice do you have for women about this?
I have friends that are in that position that they have to get everything they do cleared through marketing and legal. And I'm like, oh, wow, I don't even ask for permission. Should I be asking for permission here? Maybe this is a me thing, not a company thing. But I do have friends that are in that position, and it is a hard position to be put in because as a chief privacy officer, I hold an executive role with the company, and I do provide reports to the board of director, and I'm visible. So you've got to make sure that you're picking a company that supports what you do. Interviews go both ways. I mean, that's the key thing a lot of people miss. Interviews go both ways. You have to know if this is a company that you can be happy with. Now, sometimes you don't have the luxury of that decision. You need a job, right? You need a job. That's what you've got to do. And I have taken pay cuts in moving to new jobs because the culture of the company was better, or the support was better, or I was learning something new. Maybe it was an opportunity to learn something else. So I've gone up in title and down in title and out in salary and down. But you make the trade-offs consciously. For women that are in this position of forging their own personal professional brand, I will say that I did have to struggle with that myself. And I'm pretty darn sure that I'm never going to get hired by a Fortune 500 company because they're going to go listen to my podcast and be like, yep, we know what she thinks. She's not going to be a good fit here. Not necessarily true. I know how to be diplomatic with the best of them, but the brand I present publicly is a very, verbal, very out there, very blunt kind of person speaking on privacy. Now, I do go out of my way trying not to ding particular companies or whatever, but unfortunately, they come up in the news. But it's never a personal attack on them. It's talking about what came up on the news. I am diplomatic about that. But do I think I've cut myself out of some amazing jobs? Yes, I do. So that is a deliberate choice that I have made. I would hope there would be a Fortune 500 company out there that's like, no, you're exactly what we need. And they would do the right things. But it's a long shot, right? I've made this choice. I know that being as outspoken as I am, that I have solidified a few views in the marketplace. But I also know the salaries I can get and the jobs I can get are more than enough to make me happy. Do people want more money, more benefits, more vacation, more whatever? Yes, of course they do. That's not really going to make you happy. There are studies that show that over a certain amount, there's really no more happiness to be gained. Now, to be fair, I don't agree with the amount that's in the study. I think I need 3 times that
Yeah.
amount of money to be happy. I can't buy shoes. I need to buy shoes.
Happiness is shoes. We cannot argue about this.
Happiness issues is feminine. I'm very much a girly girl, and that has also been something I've struggled with, both being a lawyer and a privacy professional, is they're not usually very welcoming of girly girls, right? And I like my sparklies, I like my pink, I like my lace, and yes, I have faced criticism the entire time I've been a lawyer about wearing pink and lace and not following the dull black and grays kind of thing. So there are decisions that you make for your career as you go, and you don't even realize they're going to be decisions that will affect your employment or your opportunities. But smarten up and pay attention, right? Because they will. So if you're one that, you think you can't get a job if you don't do XYZ, and XYZ is important to you, challenge whether that matters. Is that where you need to be? Is your boss fantastic? Is he or she going to support your career? Do they have your back? Do they treat you fairly? All of these feed into your professional happiness, which are decisions that you have to make. So I would say you really, really need to know yourself, and you really need to know what lines you're going to draw. Because my line is drawn at, if I can't do things personally, if I can't do the podcasting and the speaking and the writing, then I can't take that job.
What I'm getting from your description is also that any opportunities that you have, quote, lost by being out there in public are things that weren't aligned with you anyway. And it seems like
Right.
you're pretty at peace with
I am.
focusing on the opportunities that are aligned with you. Have you noticed a difference over time as you've built this brand for yourself, that you get more and better aligned opportunities coming your way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, sometimes those better opportunities come with pay cuts, or they don't come with the right title, and you might have to finagle your way around those titles. But, I get approached for jobs now, and I look at them like, oh, God, it'd be nice to make $200,000 more a year. Doesn't matter what your salary is. It'd be nice to make $200,000 more. I could do this. I could do that. And then you think about it, and then you're like, but I like my coworkers. I built a fantastic team. I like my boss. I like my company. They stand for something. They're a good company. I like the board of directors. I like the value. Why would I go somewhere that I don't know if these things are there or not, right? So part of it is also being an ambitious professional. Of course I'm ambitious. This is the first job I've had that I've officially had the title Chief Privacy Officer. And 2 of my friends also landed jobs right around the same time. That was their first time actually getting the title of Chief Privacy Officer. So we actually did a session at IAPP about, well, now that you have the coveted CPO title, what does that mean? And we figured we were in the last slot on the last day. We're like, no one's going to be here. Oh my God, the room was packed to overflowing. There were people standing in the aisles and in the back because so many of us in this field, there's only one chief privacy officer at a company, right? So it's kind of like a general counsel and in-house legal team. There's only one at the top. The rest of it's pretty flat. So if you're ambitious, where do you steer your ambitions to meet your professional goals? And I mean, my goal was to be officially a CPO, and I have that now. Does this mean I would never look somewhere else? No. If one of these Fortune 500 companies came begging for me and offered me a ton of money and fantastic benefits, would I think about it? I'd be an idiot not to, right? You gotta be open to new opportunities, but it does mean I'm happy, right? And I don't know of a lot of people that could say they're happy. I had an attorney one time tell me that they didn't enjoy their job. It was a good job. Their dad was an attorney. They knew it was a good job and it paid well and they could do it well and have a good living and provide for their family, but they didn't enjoy it. Unless the money forces you into a career path that you have to have, why would anyone be in a job that they don't like?
Yeah. It's a great question, but it happens all the time.
It does. I don't understand. I mean, I get it. I had to take jobs when I was a single mom and on welfare to feed my kids. I know that. There are those choices out there. But once you're at an experienced attorney level, why would you stay in a job that you don't actually enjoy doing, that you're just 9 to 5ing, 8 to 5ing, whatever it is? And law's not usually an 8 to 5 job, right? Why? So that would be, if you're asking what advice would I give other women that are struggling to figure this out for themselves, is what do you want? What do you literally want? And then find a way to make that happen. My motto in pageants, my platform, is Live Out Loud, which is a motto taken from the Lupus Foundation of America, which I'm a national ambassador for them. I have lupus and I passed it to both my daughters. So we've struggled with this for a long time. But Live Out Loud is what I took from my personal and professional life. It means to be uniquely and unapologetically yourself. You should always be able to be yourself at work. Unless you're a serial killer, then don't even show up. I don't even want to see you there. Otherwise, be yourself at work. The interview goes both ways. If you're trapped in a job that takes most of your waking hours, which most careers do, why would you want to be somewhere where you cannot be who you are? Again, I get it if you're forced into a job because, financial situations warrant it. That's one thing. But you should still always try to make a plan and a dream to be able to get out of that and get into what you want to do. Now, I will say I can't take my own advice sometimes. I'd like to start my own company. I'd like to write my own paycheck, but I grew up so poor, I need that paycheck coming from a company. I cannot make the leap to doing my own thing because I need that guaranteed paycheck. That's just something in my past. I don't know that I have fully accepted that, but I accept that that's one of my drivers, right?
Well, there's still plenty of time, too.
Right.
There's
I'm only in
still
my
time.
50s. I mean, I got another 20, 30 years ahead of me to go, right?
Just because you haven't done it yet doesn't mean you won't.
Exactly. And so that's what I would recommend to other women is just if you're not happy, take some time and actually figure out why. Are you not happy before and you can't buy the things you want? Are you in a bad relationship? I survived 2 domestic violent marriages. I understand. Do you not have enough education? Do you have too many home responsibilities? There's a lot of things that factor into us accomplishing our dream. But I will tell you, the one dream that I had, and I recognized this when I was a single mom with children, I wanted to be able to walk into the corner store, Super 8, whatever you want to call it, Quick Stop, anything, and buy a Coke, which in the South, a Coke is anything that's carbonated. I wanted to be able to walk into a store and buy a Coke without having to get out my checkbook and balance it first. Now, I realize there are a lot of people out there don't know what a checkbook is and don't understand the balancing checkbook. But it means I don't have to check how much money I have against the bills to pay in order to go buy a drink that was 50 cents.
I remember that feeling, too.
Yeah, that doesn't go away. I can do that now. I don't even have to go look at my accounts, and I lost $5,000 one time because I wasn't paying attention to my credit cards. They were on auto pay. I didn't care. Someone charged $5,000 on Lululemon, and I didn't find it for a year.
Oh, my gosh. What a shopping
I was spending
spree.
a lot of money. I was moving to South Carolina. There was a lot. I got no excuse. That was my lesson right there, right? But I'm way past that point now, but it's still a driver, right? It's still always a driver. You have a dream, find your dream. But a lot of us don't even know how to back up from what we're doing to identify what the dream is. And that's important. Take the time to figure out what that is. That's the most important thing.
I think that's such great advice. I want to thank you so much for joining us today, Kay. Your story is so fun and inspirational, and I really hope that it leads more women to put themselves in the spotlight, whether it's to earn a crown or earn their place as an expert in their industry. So thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to Wednesday Women for doing this. I think this is a great outreach for women. Thank you.
Now that we're at the end of today's episode, we hope you'll reflect on how Kay's story might inspire your own. Is your ambition being directed in alignment with your goals? And what are you holding on to that's keeping you out of alignment with yourself?
If today's show inspired you to think of an extraordinary woman leader in your life, let her know about the Wednesday Women Executive Membership. It's a safe space for women leaders to tackle any challenge, ask questions, and uplift others. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Your ratings help us grow and inspire even more people. Thank you to our Season 2 sponsor, GNW Consulting, to our executive producers, Melissa Moody and Leslie Greenwood, and to our technical producer, Yelena Georgievich, with Kind Media Productions. I'm your host, Ashley Laabs, hoping this small ripple creates a big wave in your life. Until next time.